Morning, members and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Phil Tobin.
You know, I had the privilege of serving in the Navy for 4 years, and I'm very much taken by the song that is sung at funerals. It's a Navy hymn. I'm going to read it, the first verse of it, and then Noah's going to play it. This is the Navy hymn. These are the words, the first verse. Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, whose bits the mighty ocean deep, its own appointed limits keep. Oh, hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea. Noah?
Thank you, Phil. And to lead us in the pledge and four-way test, Jenny Fraser.
Good morning. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the four-way test. Number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Jenny. We have one guest today that signed in, Maggie Mooney. Welcome. It's good to have you here. And our president, Jerry Bortnick.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning, guests. Hope everyone's doing well today. Just a couple reminders today before we get started. The Pours and Pints for polio. Don't forget, that's going to be in Hudson on November 9th at the new brewery, the Green Valley Brewery down in the old Malted Meeple. They have already raised, just with their first 2 gatherings, they've already raised $2,700 because the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is matching 2 for 1 any dollars that they collect. So they've collected 900, they've turned that into $2,700. So that's really, really fantastic. So keep that in mind, put it on your calendars, please. Yes, Father. It's November 9th. November 9th. They have a 50-50 rally, 50-50 raffle at each event, and that's where they're getting a good portion of the funds. We have collecting for Boys and Girls Club this month. Today will be the last day collecting snacks and supplies for the Boys and Girls Clubs. If you have anything, I'll pick it up after the meeting. If you have any cash, I'll take it. I'll be going shopping probably Friday to get that down to the Boys and Girls Club of Akron. Okay, I think that's it, unless anybody has anything else that we need to be aware of. Tom?
Testing. Could I just mention James Field, myself, Ron Strobel, and Joe Avella, and several of their wives ended up going to the Cleveland Guardians game last night, along with, geez, there must have been 200 other Rotarians from. Oh, you were there? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to leave you out there. I probably didn't recognize you with all that mop of hair you got going on. So fuzzy. But great time was had by all. A gazillion home runs, unfortunately too many against us, but we all had a good time. There must have been at least a couple hundred people there, I would say. And it was a great event. And I think they also raised quite a bit for this match situation too.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. All right. With that, I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Basil, and he can introduce our speakers.
Thank you, President Terry. Good morning, fellow Rotarians and guests. It's my pleasure this morning to continue with our candidate presentations. These are individuals who will appear on the November ballot for various elected offices in our community. We have heard from candidates for Hudson City Council. Today, we will begin to hear from candidates for the Hudson City School Board. I'll briefly introduce the candidate. The candidate will have 5 minutes for prepared remarks, followed by an opportunity for questions from members and guests. If members or guests present with us have a question, please use the central mic in the center aisle. Those on Zoom, please use the chat feature, and Noah will read the question as they come in. Please keep your questions short and to the point. Again, as I've reminded everyone in the past, these are questions, not speeches. The candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question. Out of respect, I ask that we not react to responses to individual questions or to the questions themselves. At the end, we can join in showing our appreciation for those candidates who have joined us. We had expected to have 2 candidates for school board. These are the 2 candidates running for the unexpired term of Dave Zuro, who unfortunately had to resign from the board. Those candidates are Mark DeZurek and Matthew Clapper. Mr. Clapper, on September the 3rd, accepted the invitation that was extended to him on August 22nd, saying, "Thank you for the invitation. I would be happy to attend the event and will send a personal biography beforehand." After a couple of reminders seeking his bio, I received a reply from Mr. Clapper at 8 p.m. Monday evening. Dear David, after much consideration, I regret that I will decline your generous offer to attend the Rotary Club debate this Wednesday. My campaign focus on door-to-door outreach has been an excellent vehicle for sincere dialogue with members of our community, but has also limited the time I have for events. Please convey my apology to your members. We'll hold the comments, please. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce Mark Dezurek, who is running for that unexpired term. Mark grew up in Medina County and graduated from Kent State University with a degree in political science that culminated with a White House internship. Following graduation, Mark began his management consulting career in Cleveland, where he specialized in human capital and public works. This included promoting and registering Ohio families into the Children's Health Insurance Program and overseeing the fiscal management of HUD public housing in Northeast Ohio. Mark served as program manager in several workforce development programs to minimize the time in which dislocated workers were out of work and to transition them into new positions and career opportunities. Today, Mark is an account executive at Bay Point Technology. Since moving to Hudson 7 years ago with his wife, Megan, and daughter, Kate, Mark has been an engaged Explorer parent, volunteering at countless events at the 3 Hudson City schools, which his daughter has attended. Those include lunch duty at Evamere, multiple tours of duty as a field day parent, assisting with book sales, and PE swim days at the Eastwoods Natatorium, and clocking steps as a coffee filler and pancake runner at the annual PTO breakfast. And I'm certain he got in his steps that day. Mark served as finance chair of the 2022 Permanent Improvement Levy Campaign for the Hudson City Schools, and is a member of the Hudson City School District's Finance Committee, which has worked to streamline financial reporting to the community. He is also a board member of the Hudson City Schools Foundation. Please join me in giving a Rotary welcome to Mark Dezurek.
Good morning, Hudson neighbors. First of all, I'd like to thank the Rotary Club of Hudson for this opportunity to speak about my candidacy for the Hudson School Board. I think opportunities like this to have a public dialogue and a conversation are so imperative to moving our community forward. My daughter is in the class of 2030 and has experienced the best of Hudson, its teachers, staff, and administrators. She has benefited from countless opportunities within Evamere, Ellsworth Hill, and Eastwoods. And I want to flash, we find ourselves at the incredible new middle school, learning and growing in ways which we never imagined. I have no doubt that Kate is thriving because of the phenomenal resources, talent, and care offered to her every day. Each school year is only topped by the following year. This is my family's Explorer story. So it is from a position of gratitude, not grievance, that I find myself running to support a district that has done so much for my daughter. As a lover of history, I'm continuously reminded of Winston Churchill's lesson, we make a living by what we get. We make a life of what we give. The Hudson Schools community has given tirelessly to all of us who have kids in the district, and serving as a school board member is one small way I am able to give back. My biography presented here today demonstrates a history of experiences in public service through my management consulting career. I have a proven record of exceeding public project benchmarks, developing strategic plans, and meeting publicly funded budgets. I have been fortunate to be part of teams which have made life-changing impacts on so many people. Within our schools in Hudson, there are 4,700 students, which we need to care for collectively, and maybe even more importantly, individually, to ensure that they are prepared for success whatever that benchmark may be. In our house, and perhaps yours too, we celebrate small milestones, such as B's on math tests, accurately spelling the word protagonist, and remembering to charge an iPad or include a lonely classmate at lunchtime. We have vicariously sat in social studies lessons about cultures and learned about compositions of our Earth's soils in science class. We are amazed and awed with the learning that our daughter receives every day. Over the last several weeks, I've enjoyed learning other families' explorer stories, conducting my own needs assessment. There's work to do, and we cannot rest on our laurels just because this is Hudson. There are always growth areas. If elected, I will work collaboratively with the board and administration to expand and promote open dialogue with community stakeholders, ensure academic excellence, and pledge ongoing curriculum review. We need to maintain our fiscal responsibility to retain our status as a top-rated district. While I like to believe my wife and I are the leading influencers with our daughter, I am reminded of the Latin phrase in loco parentis, or instead of parents. When our kids are not learning from us, we can only hope that they are learning from and being cared for by the best experts within the best environments. Each evening around the dinner table, my family shares our roses and thorns, highlighting our day, the good and the bad. Inevitably, a teacher, fellow student, staff member, administrator, or a new piece of information learned in school is dedicated a rose. In addition to our roses and thorns, we also include our buds. Anything where there's an opportunity or something that we're excited about. Well, I can share with you that my bud is the opportunity to serve you and your kids. If elected, I can make this promise to the residents of Hudson. I will approach this responsibility to serve all of our children and the Hudson community with integrity, trust, and respect. I welcome your questions and thank you for your time this morning.
I'll lead off. So, in your view, what makes a good board member?
What makes a good board member, I believe, James, is someone who can work collaboratively with others, even when you may have differing opinions. I think working very hard to develop a consensus and a message and setting aside, a true north pattern, making sure that we have our goals always in line with moving the district forward is always going to be a paramount focus, and it should be for anybody on the board. And we have a lot of challenges as we move beyond the post-COVID world. COVID is in the rearview mirror, but I think it's going to take us decades to realize, what impact it really had on education. My daughter was in the second grade when COVID hit. And you kind of take a knife right through that learning pattern, right? You just knock out second grade, and we're playing catch up. We still are, and I'm sure we're not the only household, and we know that. We know there are learning challenges that still are facing many households. So, in that respect, I would say we really need to make sure that we have a defined course moving forward. And I think one other area in which we can really move forward beyond, the post-COVID learning period is really working as a cohesive unit and implementing that strategic plan that has been in formulation for some time in the district.
Even though I'm not a Hudson resident, I have grandchildren who attend Hudson schools, and my daughter lives in the community. And as you know, I'm retired from the school and work very closely with the school board. You have big shoes to fill with Dave Zero. I wanted to tell you how great your speech was. It was your talk. Well done. And I hope you good luck.
Thank you. Well, you're right. I do have big shoes to fill, and Dave Zero is a fine example of what a true community leader is, and someone who leads with grace.
I'm sorry, Mimi. Come on up. I'll wait for you. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that. You mentioned in loco parentis, right? In the
Yes.
place of parents. Is there any way in which you think the school should ever shield information from parents?
Well, no, I don't believe that shielding is the word you want to use. I think.
Obfuscate?
Let's get out of the source. No, I believe we have in place a wonderful team of administrators and teachers. We have the trust in them. Again, I think there's a really open dialogue, and that has been our experience as an Explorer family, to where there's never been a delayed email, or if there's been a concern that we've had related to Kate's progression within a particular course. I mean, we've received emails at 8 o'clock in the evening from a teacher. They're always on. When it comes to, and I think you're getting more into detail about, maybe some processes, procedures, and things like that. I think, again, we have to trust the process that's in place within the district's leadership structure. And I feel that, for instance, if there's something that comes up in the community, or maybe an unexpected event, let the district work through that process and then give them the opportunity to provide a cogent, clear message. I think sometimes there's a challenge too, especially in the social media age, to where, different social media platforms kind of start spreading things. And I don't use the word rumor mill, but for a lack of a better term, that's what sometimes social media platforms end up being, where people start getting ahead of the narrative and ahead of the facts. But I feel overall that the district does a very good job of communicating clearly with the community.
Okay.
There's a question in the chat. Who determines, wait, hold on.
What
Who determines which books are
is? Oh,
determines which books are restricted to students? From a parental rights perspective, how will you determine which parent gets to which parents get to decide what is appropriate for their child to read?
Sorry, no, I missed that. Can you read the first part? Sorry.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Who determines which books are restricted to students? From a parental rights perspective, how will you decide which parents get to decide what is appropriate for their child to read?
Well, I feel that there's a lot of oversight in allowing parents to have that access. I know parents have the ability to review what books they are checking, what books their children check out of the library. They can monitor that. I think the school has the necessary guidelines in place to provide that opportunity for parents to see that information. I also feel that, again, we have to trust the experts. I think there's been a lot of conversation regarding, what books are on, what shelf and what library and so forth. And I feel that, a lot of those subjects, kind of are targeted in some ways to individual students and so forth, or maybe, marginalized populations. And I feel it's really important to have all the material available to students in a controlled environment where you have librarians who know the process, know the protocols, and know that there's been a review place already to put those books on the shelf.
okay. I am aware that there are many challenges facing a normal school board. So what do you see from your experience in the system, but also and what you've learned from people that you've been talking to? What do you see as the big challenges for the Hudson City School Board? And how might you think about approaching some of those?
Sure, thank you, Mimi. So again, as I mentioned earlier, we're still coming out of that post-pandemic interruption of education and learning. I know there's a big concern in the conversations that I've had with a lot of parents too, again, about the literacy issues. And I believe that the district's done a great job at this point to kind of level set the delay and so forth with the literacy program. Attending the board meetings as I've had over these last several months, I can share with you that the district has devoted a lot of time, as has the teaching staff, to curriculum development and professional development over this past summer. I can't imagine how many hours the teaching staff devoted over the summer specifically to revisiting curriculum specific to early literacy. That being said, too, there are challenges. There's going to be challenges facing the board regarding the fiscal management, as I mentioned in my remarks. There is a levy coming up, as we all know, and I can't share enough that it is imperative that we go forth and pass that levy. It's pretty remarkable that in a district this size that we have gone 12 years without an operating levy. That's unheard of in public education. Usually the average cycle is 5 to 6 years, and I believe regionally the only district that has gone as far as we have is in the Copley-Farallon district, and that's simply because we all know what the Copley-Farallon tax base looks like. There's a lot of retail and industry there that supports that specific school district. So I think those are the challenges that we're going to be facing primarily going forward, maybe.
So I believe you may have just touched on this slightly, but another question, do you support the school levy?
Yes, I did. As I made mention, I believe that the district is doing right by our residents in getting ahead of the Summit County tax increase that's going to be coming. That's out of our hands. That's out of our control. That's just a reality. And I think putting the levy out in front of that increase is really wise and just shows how we really value everyone's tax dollars. I know nobody wants their taxes to go up, but this is our primary investment in this town. When we moved here to Hudson 7 years ago, my wife was sitting next to me. She was sharing how we had one heck of a time getting a house within our price range. How many times we were planning to come out here to look at a house, and then we'd get the call, oh, it's contingent, it's contingent. We got outbid by so many houses that it was, and then that's the reason is quite clear. People are moving here for the schools. If you poll Explorer families who have kids in the district today, 90% of them, I would tell you, would say they moved here because of the schools. We have to protect this resource to our community. Otherwise, I really fear what lies ahead if we go down a different path where we're not really adequately funding the district in today's challenges.
Hi, Mark. As everybody knows, I'm a child psychiatrist. And also early in my life, I lived in an orphanage, and a teacher actually saved my life by giving me a lot of support. And I don't think what people realize is how much mental health interventions teachers actually do, because they're with the kids all the time and they can see the problems. My question to you is, does the school have some formal way to give them more tools to deal with not only difficult kids, but kids that are struggling mental health wise?
Well, that's just it. I mean, I know the district has invested a lot of additional resources with intervention specialists, ranging all the way up now through the middle school years, because they are identifying children who have, mental issues or social development issues, brought on, by the pandemic. You had kids out, out of, in-person learning for quite a bit of time. In those formative years, and they don't know how to relate to each other. They don't know how to express their emotions and their feelings, and we can't overlook that. And you really need to provide the most better word here, the most relaxed, open, inviting setting as possible for kids to really learn. And it goes into so many different other areas, related to, you have bullying as an issue and so forth. And now, the district has put on an app now on all children's, individual devices to where they can report a bullying incident, because, all of us have gone through the rigors of school, right? We all experienced bullying or knew of someone who was a victim of bullying, back in the day. We didn't have that resource, and, kids are so anxious to share any, incident of bullying because of retribution, so I think that's just one other area of help aid that the district's providing to combat all of that.
Hi, Mark. You know, even though you're running for the school board, our community has a significant amount of senior residents here. And I know a lot of the seniors are expressing concern about the levy, especially with the tax increase. They don't have kids in school anymore. They ask why they should support it. How would you approach this issue with the seniors to get them to be supportive of the schools and to be maybe more involved? Because I see a role for them too in this issue.
Sure. I mean, I know it is a challenge, I know a lot of people, once their children leave the district and so forth, it's very easy for them to kind of feel like, okay, my time has come, we paid our dues, but now we need to move on to the next phase of life. But, again, a school is the heart of every community. We have a very vibrant, town here in Hudson, and we know that's based because of the school district. I feel that seniors, I know, have, limited needs and so forth, but you do have that Homestead Exemption Act that you can apply for anyone over 65 who has that, who meet the income criteria. But also I know that getting seniors involved, just, maybe even with, different, volunteer opportunities too with the district too, I think kind of also shed light on, all that the schools are doing. I feel that if you know exactly what's going on and all the different opportunities and special programs that these kids are able to achieve, I think that really is eye-opening for so many in this community. That's why I think, the opportunities my daughter is experiencing, her friends and peers have experienced. I think if we get that messaging out and saying, this is what we're doing for the next generation, I think that's a very positive and a strong narrative that you can relate to the senior population of the town.
David told me I could ask a question. Okay, you have a very diverse workforce. It's a lot more than just teachers. I'm on the Peterman bus app, and I notice a lot of the times buses are being consolidated. Do you have any thoughts about how we can recruit and retain some of those vital people that just get our kids to school? Thank you.
Yes, I know that is such a challenge. And, I just had a conversation with family in one of the peninsula neighborhoods that are part of our district. And they shared, they have over a half-hour bus ride for their middle schooler, and that one bus is just devoted to that one neighborhood. That just tells you how many, families live in that particular development there. It is a challenge. I believe the district is doing very well, I know, in trying to combat the driver shortage, which is an epidemic for all school districts nationwide. It's nothing that's, unique to Hudson. But I feel that what they've done a lot is reconfigured a lot of routes, streamlined those, and also started to setting up, neighborhood bus stops, to where it saves, great bit of time, where you get a collection of kids picked up at one stop. And I think that is just a pragmatic, realistic approach that you have to do until we can get back into that, recruiting the full on. Yes. Is that right? I did not know that. Really? Wow. Is that right? Okay. No. Okay.
Actually, a question on a different topic. So it was mentioned that a concern about the rise in property valuations with the tax levy. And then you had mentioned the benefit of having the tax levy go through if it's voted through before the property increases, what effect does does someone's property increase that takes place next year have on how much they'll pay for the proposed levy?
Can you restate that in a way, James? I wasn't sure I got that.
So if the levy is passed this year and it's based on whatever the current housing value is, what is the impact on what a resident pays on that levy by having their property valuation increase?
Sure. So again, working with the finance committees for this, I have this last year's, we've spent a lot of time going over, is this the best time? What is the right millage? They've been working with, board members who are also on that finance committee to make sure that we were doing right by Hudson taxpayers. What I can share with you too is I would highly recommend that everybody here is to go on, visit the district website. Very prominently, there's a link you can click on. It details all the information you need related to the operating levy. It gives you a breakdown of what cost increase you may be looking at. I can tell you just off the top of my head, if for just the levy itself, it would cost, just a little over $16 a month for a $100,000 house evaluation. And I look at it just simply from the standpoint of, this is an investment. And if you look at tuitions of nearby schools, private schools, the opportunities we provide to our kids in Hudson, it's a bargain. And I'll just share it with you. We live on North Hayden Parkway. We have a typical house in Hudson. And our annual share right now of taxes that goes directly to the schools is roughly $5,000. So I feel personally that to spend $5,000 one year for my one child to get the opportunities that she receives at Hudson City Schools is a bargain.
I sort of knew the answer. In terms of the property valuation increase, my understanding is that it has zero impact on what someone will pay on the levy.
Correct.
Mark, hey, I have to actually leave early. I apologize, but I just wanted to make a comment. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, man, you have to get close to this thing again. Okay, so I have to leave early, but I wanted to correct one thing that you mentioned. It has nothing to do with the levy or taxes. You said you had been attending board meetings for the last few months. I want to say you've been attending board meetings for the last couple of years, and you've been serving on the financial advisory committee for the last couple of years. So I think you've done a great job thus far demonstrating your service to the community. So thank you.
Pleasure to hear your comments today. And my question is that I think that we would all love to see more of the dollars that we have spent in the classroom. One of the ways to do that would be to explore conservation efforts and the availability of funding to implement renewables and sustainable energy in our school district, or to put in EV buses and so on. So just your thoughts on that, and do you support the use of the city exploring access to federal funding or other sources to try and make that happen?
Absolutely, I do. I believe we really need to, this is going to be the challenge of this century, frankly, is really getting a firm handle on, climate control, working through, getting, some people lament, the phraseology of Green New Deal, but again, I think it is imperative, and I feel that we need to really listen to our kids. I mean, they are so on board with moving forward to, combat, climate change. And, I know the district has already moved forward investigating, solar panel installations, perhaps, and things like that, and other initiatives to really move us in that renewable energy structure. So whatever I could do as a board to help promote that messaging, I'd be happy to do so. I know another thing too that we've done as a district is, we are now identified as, I believe, a green campus, which I know Mr. Tom Tobin has done quite a bit of work. I mean, I see that man all the time digging and planting trees all over the central campus near our home. So, I think that's just one more example of showing the level of commitment that the district has to moving forward and providing green initiatives.
Years ago, when we shifted from junior highs to middle schools, one of the missions of junior highs was career education and giving kids opportunities in multiple different career paths and exposing them to that. In middle schools today, one of the big things that's missing is skilled trades. Exposing kids to skilled trades so that they know how to fix a switch at home and don't have to hire an electrician to come in and do those kind of works. What are your ideas of exposing our kids in Hudson to some of those kind of opportunities?
Oh, I am so in favor of that because I feel as not just a community, but as a country, for the longest time, we had this mindset of like, you go to high school, you go to college, you go to a four-year college, this is what you're going to do. This is how it is. That was the mindset in my family, more so because neither of my parents attended college. So that was just kind of the understanding both my brother and I always had that, oh, you will be going to college. But in the many years since that time, I think we've taken a pause in this country to realize that, first of all, college isn't for everybody. And going to college doesn't necessarily say that, oh, that's a defined path of success, that in order to be successful, that you have to go to college. That's finally been turned on its ear. And I remember when I went to high school in Medina County, there was this mindset that anybody who went to the Career Center, the mindset was that, oh, they just couldn't hack high school, which was such a false narrative. In the years since I've graduated, I've actually, and pleased to share that I'm actually on the Adult Education Advisory Committee of that Medina County Career Center, and I cannot tell you how blown away I am by the different programming that they have for both adult education learners and also the program they have in place for the high school students. I mean, I remember being there for a program and they had a 17-year-old student who had just got a patent assigned to some of his work in three-dimensional printing. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, the last thing I was doing at 17 years old was getting a patent in place, that's for sure. I mean, these kids have just gone so far in identifying the true skill sets and so forth. And I think we're going to need those skills, in this next, moving forward in the future, because we have a lot of people in the skilled trades too who are retiring, and we're going to lose those skills. I mean, I know how many people too, when you get a contractor scheduled and so forth, they have shortages, right? Because they don't have the skilled labor they need to, do the necessary work that's required today. So I'm all in favor of, looking forward and moving forward and providing, introduction to those skill sets at the middle school age level.
Thank you for joining us today, Mark. Could you share your views on the proper role of the school board in curriculum oversight? How far into the weeds should the board go?
Certainly. So my belief is that there needs to be, dialogue, conversation, but again, the board is a governing board. There's a structure there in place. We have the assistant superintendent in place, to oversee, all the curriculum and so forth. But I do believe, given the challenges that we have, that regular oversight is required. Community buy-in is imperative as well. And I know the district does a great job, for instance, of providing an overview both at the Hudson Library, then also on display at the Media Center, all the curriculum that's going to be rolled out for the upcoming school year. So again, I feel like having that open presentation of curriculum is key and critical. But I don't believe that, or I don't believe it's even a true reality that a board should be sitting through, going through and sifting through every single curriculum and subject matter or book, for instance. I think that that's unrealistic. But again, I think as providing advisement and so forth in place, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Thank you very much. That might.
And if I can ask you to wait 1 second, we'll have you draw a Rotary. And because I have the mic, if I may make a very brief commentary. As a reminder, a lot of us are seniors here now, and we are paying the taxes of the community. But what I always reflect on is that I had 3 children go through the school system. And at that time, there were a lot of seniors paying for my kids to go to school. So I think it's probably, in my mind, my opinion, my duty now to keep that going and pay for our future, for our future kids who are going to school. So just my opinion. Okay, where's my Rotary? Okay, we have $12 today in our big Rotary and $151 in the big prize. Please. Okay. And the big winner is 924177. Mimi. Sure, I'll get out of your way and you can go ahead down now. Thanks so much. Hey, here's the money. All right, there's a black marble in there. Not today. Thank you. Hey, for boys and girls. Thank you. Okay, thanks, Mimi. Okay, with that, I guess we're gonna be a tad bit early today. National Day of Forgiveness. If you're carrying any of those burdens, unload them today.